everybody, welcome back to another episode of Precision Rifle Media. This week we've got Brent Books with us from Creedmoor Sports, which is not in the Northeast. I thought it was for some reason. I thought they were out of the Northeast for a long time. Creedmoor Sports, I'm pretty excited about this one because it's. I feel like there's. I don't want to say a changing of the tides, but I feel like Creedmoor Sports was maybe not geared towards the disciplines that I shoot as much, and now I think that Brent. Well, we'll talk to him about it in a little bit here, but I think that he's starting to shoot the stuff that we shoot. So you're going to start seeing another really, really good option for a lot of really cool stuff. Not that they don't have stuff for us already. We're going to go over some of that, but I think you're going to start seeing him be a bigger player in the PRS game. But with that, he does have a lot of a different shooting background than like most of my guests, which I think is going to be pretty interesting to hear about. Some more like Camp Perry type shooting, stuff like that we don't get into, but I think it'll be really interesting to hear about and learn a little bit about. Because like, as we all know, the PRS is a little bit of like everything, right? Like if you're really good, if you're a good shooter, you're a good shooter. And I think that being able to master multiple disciplines is going to do nothing but make you better. So without further ado, Brent, glad to have you on. And can you just introduce yourself a little bit, who you are and what you do and where you come from?
Yeah, thanks, Kirk. Thanks for having me. So I'm the director of merchandising here at Creedmoor Sports. I've been a competitive shooter since I was 10 years old in various different disciplines. From Pennsylvania originally, and then actually got a scholarship to shoot in college here in Alabama at Jacksonville State. Around that same time, Creedmoor Sports moved from California to here. And once I graduated, I just kind of stuck around, still working here and loving it and shooting all the time too.
Nice. Yeah. So we talked yesterday on the phone a little bit, but you were doing some kind of a seminar for Olympic shooting of some sort.
Oh yeah. So for different categories of products that we have, we try to train everybody that wants to join into a class that works here. So for the machine shop, sewing department, shipping, customer service, everybody, if they're interested in a topic, we have the subject matter expert kind of give that seminar. So yesterday was Olympic style small bore shooting. And I'll do that. I'll do 2 classes this week. Next week, somebody will teach a different class. I've done one on PRS. I've done air rifle and just high power as well. So that keeps everybody within the company up to date with what's going on. And that way they just they feel like they've got the experience and confidence to talk to the customer about any kind of questions.
Oh, sure. Cool. Yeah. So speaking of the PRS, I think the Creedmoor Sports, the Creedmoor deal is obviously the 6.5 Creedmoor, right? Like that's where everybody's going to hear Creedmoor from, probably, right?
Right.
But what's the origin of the word Creedmoor?
Yeah. So the first NRA range was in New York, and it was the Creedmoor range. And so when the 6.5 Creedmoor came out, it kind of paid homage to the first NRA competition range. As well as, with Dennis DeMille helping develop that with Hornady, kind of pay homage to the company that Dennis was working for at the time. So, the name 6.5 Creedmoor from us, as well as that range in New York.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and what is Creedmoor like? Doesn't it mean like small farm or something, or isn't there something like that?
I think there is something like that because I think that it was a small farm, honestly, where that range was set up at, and so that might be why. I don't know about that. Wikipedia, I don't think is too clear on that origin.
Creedmoor, Creed-More, a man's heavy blucher shoe, BLUCHER shoe with gusset and laces.
Yeah, I hope that's not where our name came from.
Yeah. Well, they got more spelled incorrectly for our meaning.
They must have got that from a Facebook post because nobody seems to be able to spell our name right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. We were even talking about that. Gavin even spelled it wrong. The guy who makes fun of everybody more than anybody else for spelling it wrong.
Right. Yep. Yeah. When I told him, he's like, "You got to be kidding me."
And I got a feeling a lot of times it's like an autocorrect thing.
Right. Yeah. I think it's spelled wrong so often that the internet just thinks that's the correct way of doing it. MORE. No, that's wrong.
Yeah.
And when people try to email me, at creedmoorsports.com, they always spell the Creedmoor wrong, and then they get mad at me that I didn't get their emails.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So, now I kind of brought it in, the Creedmoor to me, when I hear that, I don't necessarily think PRS, right? I think more of like the high power type shooting, Camp Perry type shooting when I think of Creedmoor for whatever. I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's most people or if I'm just the odd man out, but uh, we were kind of talking a little bit like you guys are starting to shoot the PRS stuff. And I think we're going to start seeing some more like PRS type gear coming out of you guys. Does that sound correct?
right. So we've been around since 1979, and the historically we have been a service rifle high power type company. That was our bread and butter. And then a few years back we got into the reloading game. So carrying Forrester, Redding, Wilson, Trebell, Dylan, all of that, and that really expanded our reach, not just within high power, but to all rifle disciplines. And then, of course, PRS being as it's growing so fast, it's a perfect opportunity. And then with me starting to shoot PRS, getting a lot more exposure, ideas, things like that. It's awesome when I see somebody come up with an idea that they're doing a homemade something, and I like it. It's like, hey, let's see if we can make that here. If there's something I need personally, no sense in just me having it. Might as well make it here and see if the customers want it. So you're going to see a lot more PRS products coming out quickly here in the near future.
Nice. Yeah. So, talking about that, like kind of in the intro, can you hear the intro? I'm not even sure. Can you hear me when I'm talking before I bring you in?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you could. Okay. So, like I was kind of saying, I think like being proficient in multiple disciplines, right? Like I think that, like if you've only shoot PRS, I'm not saying you can't be good at it, but it doesn't hurt to be good at other things, right? And you pick up a trick here, you pick up a trick there, and then that stuff all kind of trickles into everywhere else, right? Um,
Right.
so that's where I see this kind of being a neat thing too, right? Where you can bring in some stuff that's maybe not as conventional in the PRS world, but it might start making big differences.
Right. Like I sent that email out yesterday. I don't know if you saw it about the air gun range, and I kind of put in there, if you're good at shooting an air rifle, that requires perfect follow through, perfect sight alignment, perfect trigger squeeze. If you can perfect shooting an air rifle, any rifle you pick up, you're going to be great at. So, my background's an Olympic air rifle and small bore. So the positions and everything, the ranges are a lot different. But the fundamentals, from shooting 3-4 hours a day, every single day, you get those, you really nail down those fundamentals. So when it comes to more stressful scenarios like PRS, you don't have to be worried about so much of those because it's all muscle memory at that point. So
Those air rifles, can you explain them a little bit? And for people maybe that aren't familiar, like a lot of people think of an air rifle and it's like, oh, my old Daisy.
right. So I
Even
shot a five.
the neighbor down the road, he shot 4H air rifle and they shot, it looks like a Red Rider with a pretty
Mhm.
heavily modified stock, is what it looks like.
Right. So there's two different classes really for 10-meter air rifle. There's sporter class and precision class. Sporter, it kind of looks more like your Daisy type rifle, but they're getting to where they're starting to look more like precision rifles. And the precision rifle looks like it's an aluminum chassis. A lot of them, some are wood still, but it's got the adjustable butt plate, adjustable cheek piece, and you've got a riser underneath the fore end, and you can just customize that gun to make it fit you, just like a precision rifle, center fire. But they're designed to be super accurate at 10 meters, and that's all you're going to be shooting them at is 10 meters. And they got iron sights, so you've got your rear iris in the back, front iris in the front. Just align those with your target. But the 10 ring on it's smaller than a millimeter, and to be good, you're basically hitting that millimeter 10 ring like probably at least 50 out of 60 times, and that will put you decent in college. At the Olympic level, they use decimals, and so you've got to hit it 60 out of 60 times. And it's with iron sights, and you're standing the entire time, no support. But you've got special clothes. You got a coat, pants, boots, a glove. but it's one of those sports where you have to shoot every single day to be good at it and train the right way.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of time.
Are
So as
those
soon as I graduated college, didn't have the opportunity to practice every day. I was like, nope, I'm picking up something different.
yeah. Are those do they shoot a 6 millimeter BB?
It's going to be a 177 pellet.
Oh, it's a pellet. Oh, okay.
Yep.
My
Yep.
neighbor shoots a BB. It looks like a Red Ryder. It looks like my Red Ryder on the wall right there, except for it's got a different like stock setup, and it doesn't have, the Red Ryder. You open the side of the
Hmm.
barrel and you pour like 500 BBs in there and run around and shoot birds all day. But
Right.
his doesn't have that. You cock it. And you I've never played with it, but you put the BB down the barrel one at a time.
Hmm. Yeah. I used to have one of those. But yeah, these you're looking at probably between 3,000 and $5,000 for this pellet gun.
Oof.
So that doesn't include the upgrades. A lot of people want a different type of butt plate. You're looking at probably 350, $500 for different butt plate, things like that. So yeah, but in the long run, they can pay for your college. So that's why college tuition is a lot more expensive than that rifle. So that's why you see a lot of kids doing it, and it is fun.
That's crazy. It's one of those things. I think it's probably more popular than people think it is.
Hmm.
Right? I think it's going on a lot. But like I say, like the cross contamination of the sports here, right? Like the PRS guys, I feel like maybe don't hear as much about that kind of stuff, right? Where
Right. Yeah, and it's on. It's in the Olympics. It's just it doesn't get the exposure, and they're doing their best to make it more TV friendly. And it is fun to watch. Like they'll have the camera zoom in, and you can see they're shooting on electronic targets. So they've got the monitor that shows exactly where it hit on the target, and so spectators can now see the performance of everybody. Whereas 10 years ago, we still had it 10 years, 15 years ago we didn't really have a lot of that. And so it was super boring to watch because it would be 2 hours of just seeing people shoot, but you didn't know how they were doing.
yeah, it's
Now
like
it's instant.
it's like trying to film the PRS, right? Like because you can't. It's not like you got like with this sport, right? There's one target at one distance. You can put a camera on it and watch the whole thing, right? But like
Hmm.
if you were to try and televise that on for PRS, you're going to have what between 3 and 7 cameras,
Right.
2 and 7 cameras per stage, right? On 10 stages.
Yeah. And at least there's movement though. So that does make it more interesting watching PRS. There's movement, whereas an air rifle, the movement is the worst thing you want to do. So these people are the most still you could possibly imagine. So it's watching paint dry, but probably worse.
Yeah,
So, but with a little monitor on the side, seeing the scores, parents go nuts watching that. Their
oh, I'm
kid
sure
shoots, 5 tens in a row for the first time in their life, and mom's crying with joy, and it's a good time.
that is cool. Yeah, how many
So
how many colleges have that going on?
I think there's around 20 D1 schools, and then around maybe 60 D2 and D3 with some club teams in there too. So the club teams are separated; they have their own competition, and then the D1 schools have their NCAA championships. So you shoot, I think, 12 to 13 matches a year, traveling all around. I went to Alaska, Colorado, Texas a bunch of times. You got TCU and UTEP, and yeah, it's a full season. It's one of the very few sports that is a fall and I guess fall and winter sport, but it goes into spring as well. Championships are in March, so right around March Madness is when we have our championships.
I would rather watch that than March Madness.
Right. Yeah. Everybody's telling me like, who do you have winning the NCAA championship? And I instantly think of a rifle team, and I'm not thinking of whatever sport's going on.
Yeah, speaking of scholarships, right? That's something that I think is I think that's something that somebody should be trying to do. Somebody should be trying to put and I say somebody and then it's like, "Well, why don't you do it?" And it's like, "Oh, I'd love to, but I'm not smart enough." Um there is Allison Zane. Do you know who I'm sure you know who Allison Zane
Yeah.
is.
Mhm.
She got a CMP scholarship,
Right.
which is pretty cool. But like some kind of a PRS type scholarship, I think there's enough companies that could put something together, and then the reason being is like if you want to get young people involved, like you said, you could pay for your school, right? Well, if you could get to where the PRS could pay for your school with
Hmm.
scholarship of some sort, right? Because you don't have to have the school doesn't have to have it for you to get a scholarship. CMP doesn't have a school.
Right. Yeah. So for me, it was an athletic scholarship. So as long as there's an NCAA Division I rifle program, it'd be the same as if I were to get a scholarship for basketball, football, baseball. That was never going to happen. So rifle was my only opportunity there. But yeah, there's plenty of, the CMP scholarship is an excellent opportunity, whether you're going to school to shoot or not. If you're a competitive, athlete, shooter, um, that's definitely something that everybody should be applying for.
Yeah, I think there's there's all kinds of weird scholarships. I remember a guy that I work with, his kid, I believe, got the Gatling gun, like the old Gatling family or whatever.
Okay.
They had some kind of a scholarship, right? And it was supposed to go to somebody in the family, right? And
Hmm.
I'm sure back when the Gatling gun was invented, the $1,000 scholarship was probably a big deal. But now it's like it's $1,000, which is you wouldn't say no, you know what I mean? But,
Right.
but it's not, it's not
Oh
like
yeah,
hey, I
they
got
add
that
up.
one, you can go to college.
Right.
But I believe that his kid got it. My guy, coworker's kid got it because there's no more Gatlings that whatever, however it worked out. So he signed up for all kinds of, we got all kinds of weird stuff. I just remember him telling me about the Gatling gun scholarship, which is somebody to look it up or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of cool. There's a lot of weird stuff for scholarships out there.
Right. Yeah, I had one friend. He applied for everything possible, and he got a lot of them. But it was like $100 here, $300 there. I'm like, how do you keep track of all that? But yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, right. So now, so now you're a big PRS 22 shooter.
I started in what February, and I've shot 11 matches since then, I think. So yeah, I've been going at it, trying to get two a weekend or at least one every weekend. Um, yeah, it's been definitely a learning experience. I went in with a lot of fear. Like I got no idea what's going on. Of course, the first match it was, and the guys that were there, if they're watching this, they'll remember it was a mess. And then I had a match the following day. So I did a Saturday at one range, Sunday at another range. I'm like, all right, I learned everything I need to do on Saturday. I'm not going to make those same mistakes on Sunday. Oh boy, it was not any better. Plus, it was pouring down rain, sloppy, muddy mess. But I learned everything there. So the next week, I go back up to a different range, and things were a lot better. I was more calm. I kind of knew what was going on at that point, and everybody was super helpful. That was an awesome part. It was they made sure that before the stage, at least understood what to do. Now during the stage, everything was out the window. My whole game plan was gone. But by the fourth, fifth match, got into routine, knew what I needed to do. Still, everybody was helping me, and now I go there and I don't get quite as much help anymore because I'm
Yeah.
doing a lot better. Um, but yeah, it's been a blast. So
Awesome. Yeah. Do you find that to be any different between the disciplines that, I mean, you show up and you just get a ton of help here? Is that any different? Like, I don't
in small bore and air rifle, everybody's so focused um, that now at like the club level, if you show up your first time and you just want to get into the sport, you're going to have everybody here. Here's gear to borrow. You're going to have the coaches being extremely helpful and everything. When you go to a match, everybody's kind of expected. They've got their own gear. They know what's going on. Everybody stays kind of in their lane. Now, if something goes wrong, a coach from another team or somebody's going to go out of their way to try to let them borrow equipment and things like that. But yeah, you're not going to and you really don't need it because you're just shooting at one target 60 times. Like it's pretty simple. And high power, you do have, it is a little bit more complex with high power because you've got your rapid fire stages, you got different distances, different equipment. and you've got breaks in between your courses of fire. And so there's a lot more helping going on at a high power match. But then with PRS, I think it's a necessity in order for the sport, and that's why the sport has grown, I believe, is because everybody is so helpful. But there's just a lot more dynamic things going on, a lot more movement, a lot more equipment. And so, yeah, there's different levels, but I think it depends on the sport, what kind of help's required. So, but I think it's a good opportunity. With that help, you get to meet people. I've met so many people over the last 3 months just from asking them questions and things like that. So it's a good facilitator to make friends, and that's what keeps people coming back.
Yeah, for sure. What are you running for a rifle?
So I'm kind of going back and forth. I've got an Anschutz 1710. That's the company gun here, and absolutely love it. But then in Vegas at SHOT Show this year, I won the Lapua 100-year anniversary Voodoo. And so it's a flashy gun. It's awesome. And it's a conversation starter. It's got a white barrel, white action, and then the Lapua blue chassis with the Lapua emblems on the side of it and everything. So yeah, I'm still going back and forth. I really like that Anschutz because I grew up shooting Anschutz, and that's my favorite brand. So, but yeah, those are the two that I'm running right now.
Nice. Any plans to get a centerfire?
Definitely. I want to get as good as I can with the rimfire before going, because it's just going to be the additional costs and everything. I want to don't want to go to a match and just waste ammo when I get there. So with the rimfire, I do. Yeah, right. With the rimfires, it's a little bit easier on the wallet to waste ammo. But yeah, get the fundamentals. It's the head games that are shoot, target, ACBD, and then BCDA, and change every 3 shots. But there's 4 targets, so it's just once I get better at that kind of stuff, then yeah, it'll probably be next year. Next year I'll get a center fire.
I gotta, speaking of that stuff, that is what'll get you. I can't remember where I was shooting. It was either the South Dakota match or the Nebraska match back when they did the Bighorn. But it was like a ram. It was like 4 targets. It was like a ram, like a bear, and then like a dude, like a head silhouette, like a head, and then like a pheasant or something, right? I don't remember what it was. So I wrote down the order that I had to shoot them in, because it was, like a left to right, and they were all pretty close ranges, right? It's not like it was like, oh, that's the close one and that's the next one. It was like, they were all, the way it was kind of arrayed, the array out in front of you. It was hard enough for me to screw it up anyway, which isn't that hard. But I wrote down the first letter of what I wanted to shoot, right? So I can't remember what I did, but I instead of calling, like, it was a ram, I think is what they called the target, right? A ram. But I put goat, and then there was like a sheep target. Well, or it was like something like that, right? So I shot like the sheep instead of the goat, and then like, I don't know. But that's the kind of stuff that where they say, like, taking the extra time to draw on your little arm boards and make sure you know what you got going on, that makes a difference.
And to research your farm animals before you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, there was one stage. Yeah, so it was like that ABCD, but then it wasn't left to right. Like the letters were scrambled downrange, and it was just, there was a whole bunch of movement and everything. Like, with my background, I'm a good shooter, but it's shooting one target, like the same target over and over and over. I can do that pretty well, but yeah, I've got a lot of learning to do to calm down and just go through the stage in my head ahead of time, visualize all of it ahead of time. But I get talking, and the next thing you know, I'm up, it's my turn, and I'm not prepared.
Yeah, totally unprepared. Or you prepare right away, right? And then all of a sudden the wind picks up, and then it's your turn to go, and you're like, oh man.
Yep. Well, actually, on Sunday I was shooting up at Dead Zero, and Emil Prashlik. He was there for the
Oh yeah.
V2 F class match. So I was talking to him, and we were talking about my gun and everything, and the new Lapua ammo. And then I was up, and I was like, okay. And he's like, I'm gonna film you. I was like, oh no. So here's the pressure now. And I get up there, and I start. Well, I didn't start with the right dope. So my first 2 shots down range, I'm like, what's going on? And, oh, okay. I got distracted, didn't get prepared. And as soon as he left, then that was my goal. I'm like, make sure every stage I'm prepared, going down through. So learn my lesson there. Like, don't get carried away in a conversation.
Did he ever tell you the story about his dad and the monkey?
Oh, I'm knowing aim, I'm afraid to hear it.
Oh, it's funny. It's a hilarious story. Next time you see him, you'll have to ask him to tell you the story about his dad. His dad was like a New York City cop.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a hilarious story, and I'm not going to tell his story on the show, but
right.
You got to just ask him about that story, because it is just I was just rolling laughing.
I'll see him at Camp Perry.
Such a storyteller.
Okay. Oh yeah, yeah. We stayed at the Southwest Nationals. We stayed in the same house for a couple nights, and that we didn't need TV, didn't need anything. Just listen to him.
Yep. Yeah. Oh man, is he funny? That, or like the day is like dad's best friend like retired from the PD or something too. That's a pretty funny story.
Oh, I'll have to write all this down. Make sure I ask him.
Yeah, man, is he funny? But yeah, I should get a hold of him. I haven't talked to him in quite a while.
Yeah, I'll see him actually in probably 2 weeks. Yeah, we got the small bore nationals, and then high power nationals, and then long range nationals up at Camp Perry. So I'll be there for an entire month. And I've been going up there ever since I was 9 years old. I've gone there every year as a competitor for small bore first, and then with Creedmoor, we set up a store there every year. So for the last 6-7 years, I've been spending a whole month there, and I'll get to shoot a little bit. Some service rifle, shoot my M1 Grand, and maybe even some air rifle. They got a indoor 80 point 10-meter air rifle range there too.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it'd be a good time.
Yeah, that's one that's like, that'd be a cool one. That's like, it's a pretty prestigious match, right?
Right.
Like it's
they have the President's 100, all the trophy matches. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't know. That'd be just really cool. It's like I told you that the guy, I've told the story on the show probably 15 times, so I'm just going to be quick about it. But that old timer that came out and shot a match, and he was kind of like, he was all shaky and getting out of his old, old Ford Explorer, and he had you could see the wood stock on his rifle coming out of the thing. I was like, oh, this guy's not going to really know what's going on, And he's like, I haven't done anything like this, and he gets a shooting jacket out and starts like putting his shooting jacket on, and it's like all full of just stacked with like Camp Perry 62, Camp Perry 63,
Right. And hopefully that coat came from us. When you look at Camp Perry, it's probably 95% Creedmoor coats all up and down the line. It's pretty awesome to see that many people wearing our products. So
yeah, it was so long ago, and I wouldn't have known anyway, but it was blue.
Right. Yeah.
Ours blue.
But our most popular color is blue. Mine's blue. It's blue Cordura, blue leather sleeves. It's pretty slick looking. But that's the cool thing about Camp Perry too, or anything in high powers. You've got like super old dudes, then you got juniors, you've got the Army Marksmanship Unit, you've got all levels of competition, all shooting side by side each other. You might be shooting next to the previous national champion, and this might be your first match ever. So it's definitely a cool experience. And then commercial row, if there's any products that you don't have the opportunity to see because it's not something you can get at Walmart. You've got all the vendors there to go check stuff out. So commercial row it brings in a lot of people just for that. They might not be shooting, but they know the national matches are going on. They can go pick up whatever equipment they need.
Yeah. So what's the Camp Perry, when you're doing that, that's all, it's like one range, one yardage, right? I mean, there's different yardages, but when you're shooting, you're just shooting pretty much one.
Right. You'll have one firing point. There might be 200 people on the range, but everybody will be shooting, at 200 yards first, and then it depends on the match. But we've got 200 yards, 300 yards, 600 yards, and then for long range they got 1,000. But yeah, you're like, just for example, probably the most common method or course of fire would be 20 shots standing at 200 yards, so no support or anything, and then you'll shoot 10 shots rapid fire sitting. So you've got a mandatory reload in between. So you'll shoot like 2 shots, put a different magazine in or a different clip depending on your rifle, and then shoot 8 shots after that. Then you'll move to shoot another rapid fire at 300 and prone. Same thing, shoot 2, load another 8, shoot your 8, and then you'll shoot like 10 or 20 rounds at 600 yards slow fire prone. So you're loading one at a time. We're using either AR-15s, M1 Grands, M14s. Those are pretty much the 3 most popular.
Sure. I think it'd be cool to go to shoot like a M1 Grand, right, in competition. I just think that'd be cool.
It's awesome, and with we wear the coats, so you don't get too tore up. But rapid fire at 300 yards with an M1, it's pretty fun.
Yeah. So they're semi-automatic, right? Do you have to stop the cartridges from the casings from flying over to the next guy or anything, or how's all that work? Because you shoot trap, right? And like we always had to put rubber bands around our actions so that the hull wouldn't go hit the guy next to you, right?
Yeah, it's just part of the sport. Like, you're going to be getting hit with brass, and it's going to be hot. So our coats actually we put a terry cloth collar in the neck so that the brass doesn't like run down the back of the coat. Excuse me. Sometimes it's pretty hot out, and so I might actually take that out and then regret it as soon as I get to the firing line, because I'll just have hot 30-06 brass landing on my neck. Or sometimes people are shooting shorts and a piece of brass will land like right on their leg and just sit there and just sizzle. So yeah,
my brother, for shooting 22s, Ruger 1022, so when we were kids, he had like rubber rain boots on because it was swampy back where we were shooting. He had a pretty good scar. I mean, I haven't asked him about it in a long time. His boots cover it, but when we were kids, he had a pretty good scar from that 22 casing.
Right. Yeah. Actually, I shot a match, the grand match here at Talladega. When was that? That was last Thursday. Guy beside me, like, it was just spot on, landing the same exact way every single time on the side of my head. Like, I'm there trying to concentrate. It was during standing. I'm there just trying to concentrate, about ready to break the shot, and then just ting right on the side of my head. Like, come on now. So put the gun back down, try to visualize everything again, go through my shot process, bring it back up. I'm ready to go. Hit me in the side of the head again. I just waited till he was done and then finished out my 10 shots. But yeah, and then going way back in college, there was a girl, she ended up being an Olympian, but she knew exactly where it was a 22, knew exactly where her brass was going to eject. And you could be in different stages. So like back then, I think I was shooting kneeling, she was shooting standing. So she was above me to my left, and she was having a great time, just like kind of aiming it. She'd eject it. It would just land somewhere on my head. She did that the entire match. And it made me so mad. Of course, she won the match. She was shooting so well, but she was also probably just calm. She was having a good time, and I'm there just frustrated. Like, every time I want to take the shot, I'm getting hit in the head with brass. But yeah, we laugh about it now, but I'm like, you remember when? So
that's funny.
Yeah.
That would be pretty frustrating though, if you were trying to shoot and the person next to you was like actively throwing stuff at you.
Right.
Yep. That would be pretty frustrating. Even like low level when we were shooting trap, if somebody was doing that, just like the county trap league or whatever, that would have been frustrating.
Right. Yeah, we knew each other pretty well, so like she was just trying to give me a hard time. But yeah, definitely if it was intentional and you didn't know the person, it's like, dude, what's your problem? Yeah. But yeah, she was just trying to give me a hard time. So, but yeah, that guy on Thursday, he had no control. He's shooting an M1. He's got no control where that brass is going. It just so happened to be perfectly aligned with me.
Yeah, and he probably didn't even know what was happening.
Right. Yep. I think he was think he was left-handed too, so he was facing the opposite direction anyway. So he had no idea what was going over there because
Mm.
he's shooting this way, Brass is going that way, and yeah, I'm on the other side of him, just getting smacked. So,
So it's
but
left-handed shooting a right-handed ejecting rifle. Is that pretty normal?
yes, especially with the vintage military guns.
Oh, because I guess where are you going to get a lefty-handed vintage?
Right,
Yeah.
right. So seeing them shoot like 1903s, stuff like that, loading them and working the bolt opposite and everything, it's fun to watch somebody, because during rapids you got to be real quick. You shoot your two shots with a 1903, you're shooting 5 and 5, but then using the stripper clips, running them down with the opposite hand, and it's fun to watch. If they're good at it, it's definitely something that worth paying attention to.
Huh.
So,
That's another one I always wanted was an '03 Springfield.
mhm. the so they've got a match, the vintage sniper match, which is super awesome. Um, they're shooting like 1903 A4s or 1941s with an 8 power scope, and it's timed. You've got a spotter and you've got yourself, and like the targets will come up. I forget the time of it, but it's very limited. You got like 15 seconds or something to take your shot. Then the targets come back down. But you'll shoot at 300 yards and 600 yards. But you're on sandbags, so it's a vintage sniper match. You're using old rifles, shooting long distance in a certain amount of time. It is a blast.
That would be super
And
cool.
yeah, they shot that at Talladega. I think it was on Sunday, and then I might shoot the match at Camp Perry this year. Don't have a gun yet, but a lot of times since you're paired with somebody, like I've shot maybe 5 matches and I've just used their gun. I bring the ammo. Most of them are shooting ammo that we load here, and so I bring my
Oh,
own
yeah.
ammo. So yeah, we'll just shoot this. Don't you? As long as I can use your gun, I'll bring the ammo.
Sure. Oh, that's cool.
So
Uh, Speaking of ammo, going back to Creedmoor Sports, you guys do sell a lot of reloading components. Um,
mhm.
and one thing that we were talking about was, well, for one, like the press upgrades. That's kind of cool. Like the
Right.
T7 turret press upgrades and the well, for all the turret presses, looks like you sell parts for pretty much all the major stuff.
Mhm.
But that's pretty cool. To see some of that stuff, that aftermarket support there. What else is kind of your bread and butter there?
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time with upgrades to presses. It's finding something that might be not necessarily a pain point, but where it could just be made better or a different spin on things. So, like you gave the example of the turret press upgrades, we've got like just things to make the your original head more smooth, lock in tighter. But then we also came out with 2 different styles of heads. One is just a stainless steel upgraded head for the T7. And then we have another one called the adaptive head that's got wedges. So instead of having to replace like the T7 entire head, you can just leave that on there and then replace your dies with the wedges. So they're all set, and it also gives you the ability to use the inch and a quarter dies too. So I don't think there's not many presses out there, especially if you've got a T7, you're limited to the 7/8, but this allows you to use, the inch and a quarter. Some of the other things we've got
What calibers are using the inch and a quarter dies?
so with Tree Bell, it's almost, I think they've got inch and a quarter in almost all their cartridges. I don't know off the top of my head, but they're getting very popular. And typically it's going to be guys loading the larger cartridges, but Tree Bell also makes them in the larger dies for the mid-sized cartridges as well. So,
What's the
but
advantage to that? Do you think?
um, it's going to be a lot more, I guess, rigid. I'd say when you're putting a lot more force in those larger cartridges for sizing, you're just going to have more consistency with that.
Sure.
And with the Tree Bell dies, I don't know if you've ever seen one before, but it's jewelry. These things they are awesome looking. You can just tell they're German, but the precision that goes into making these, I can't think of any other reloading equipment that I've seen that looks as clean as these do.
Really? I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to look into
So
that. You guys carry those?
we do. Yep. Yeah. And the pictures that we take of them just don't do it justice until you've got one like in your hand. You're like, holy cow,
What's a
this is
set of
something to be
those run?
seen. What's that?
What's a set of those run off the top of your head?
Um, they're more than Reading, more than Forster. Off the top, actually, just let me look here. You're looking at for a full length sizing die. They start at 179
Oh, that's not
and go up to 375.
375. That's getting up there for a die.
It's getting up there, but for guys that are super serious and they want to, eliminate all doubt about their equipment, especially if cost of components and everything, the tools, like, it's going to be the tool for the job, like the tool.
Hmm.
So, but
That's interesting. I've never even heard of them.
yeah, a lot of people haven't. We're the importer for them. We picked them up maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Sure.
So it was slow getting started. But in Europe, they're super popular. And all it takes is for someone to just see one, and that's the problem. We're an online store, and
Mhm.
so we're trying to do the best with the images and things like that. But once you see it, you're like, oh, this makes sense. That's why
Yeah.
they're priced where they're at.
All right. Huh. Interesting.
Hmm.
Um,
But yeah, we've got other, like, we just launched the shoulder datum tool, and we've had the comparator tools. It's just a new spin on how to measure, comparatively your brass and headspace, things like that. And we've got, in the next probably month, 2 months, I don't know how many new products we got coming out for reloading, as well as PRS too. We've got guys here that are super super hardcore reloaders, and so they're developing things to help themselves, as well as they're like, hey, customers are going to like this too. Same thing with me as I'm shooting PRS. It's like, this would be really cool to have. And so we make it, and then it goes out to the customers.
hmm. Yeah. No, that's cool. It's cool to see a company that can adapt so fast too.
Right. And we're small, nimble. I think it's an advantage we have over a lot of the other companies. It takes them so long to get things through the process, all the bureaucratic stuff and everything, where here it's like, I have an idea. Okay, let's go make it.
Yeah.
And let's go take pictures of it. Let's make a few more, make sure it's all perfect, put it online. We can go from start to finish in a week.
Yeah. That's crazy. Uh, Components too. You guys sell reloading components now.
Mhm.
Those bullets that you sell, we kind of talked about that a little bit, but can you kind of? I mean, they're consistent. I mean, they're.
Right.
It's like, because my thing is, right. Like, I see that and I'm like, that's great that you have bullets, but it's when you're looking for, when you want to get the same thing again or whatever, you're you know you, how do I put it? How do I put it? Like, you want burger bullets, you just go buy burger bullets, and you just always buy burger bullets, right?
Right.
Then and they're big, and you're gonna be able to get them. You know, I mean,
Right.
right? Eventually they'll be somewhere, right? I know they can be hard to get, but or A tips or whatever, right? But like, uh, we were kind of talking, and you were saying they're really good bullets. They're worth checking out.
Yeah. So the American Bullet Company, it's kind of an idea that came about like during COVID, with components being really hard to get. We were calling manufacturers and just saying, hey, do you have any bullets that you don't want to package, or they're not like first runs or things like that. And we got a great response. Like, yeah, like, we can't package these, we can't market them as what they were made for, but the QC is the same. It's just they're out of spec. And so we bought a whole bunch of them, brought them in, repackaged them as American Bullet Company, which, they're the same bullets you'd buy from the major manufacturers, just slightly out of spec, but the consistency's there, the QC's there, and that allowed people to continue to train through COVID and everything, without having to use up their good components, quote unquote, for their matches. So it helped encourage people to get out to the range and not, conserve their components. And then here recently we've come out with the American Bullet Company match bullets, and these ones are going to be what you get from the major competitors. They're within spec, everything's good to go, and it's just, they had an overrun or things like that, didn't want to package it. So we get them, repackage them, sell them at a better price point. And the good thing is that they're going to be the same lot. So you're not going to have mixed lots within a box. Now, of course, you might get a different lot, if you buy from 1 month to the next month. But when you get your order, and so we do the same thing with, the regular components from big manufacturers. When you place an order, we make sure everything's with the same lot. If you want a different lot, you can let us know. Or if we don't have enough of that lot, we'll call you before we ship it. And we'll say, hey, we've got 10 boxes of this lot, and you ordered 11. That 11th box is going to be of a different lot. Is that okay? Type of thing. But yeah, with the American Bullet Company, it's the real deal. And yeah, guys have been really happy, especially in the high power crowd. The 224 caliber stuff, it's right up their alley for what they need, and it's shooting great. And we've got the 30 cal stuff as well. Sometimes we get 6mm in. It all just depends on what we can get our hands on.
Sure. Yeah, I just want to bring that up. It's a very viable option for people, I think, right?
Right.
Especially if you're going to buy a whole bunch of them, like you said, you're going to buy 10 boxes, 10 boxes of 100, right?
Yeah. And the price point is super incredible compared to if you're buying the real thing. So yeah, it's definitely worth trying out.
Yeah. And like you said, the consistency's there, which is what's important, right? If it's so, like, I don't know. I think it's worth talking about. I think it's worth bringing up with components being kind of hard to get, and all the stuff you said.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Especially back then, that was a big pain. People were calling us just angry, like, man, they're manufacturers. What are they doing? They're not making anything. No, they're making it. They just can't keep up. And it's like, but we've got kind of the same thing right here. And so that calm folks down. And
Yeah.
so they'd be happy. Oh, and it's priced better. Of course. Yeah, I'll buy that. And then they call back 2 weeks later. Got any more of that stuff? So,
yeah. Then what'll happen is it'll be like, some goofy weight or something, just a little bit, or whatever, and it'll shoot real good, and they'll want that one again.
Right.
That's
yeah.
That's what I see happening.
Right. Yeah. You just got to make sure you work up that load every time you try to buy as much as possible, at that initial time.
Yeah. Well, and anytime you
switch
switch slots, you're going to be pretty much
right.
checking, right? So who cares?
Right. Yep. And it's all just going down range anyway. So it's not like you just send it. So
you guys sell, so we talked about the reloading stuff, the bullets. We're just kind of hitting briefly on this stuff. It's worth going to the website, creedmoorsports.com. But then you guys have soft goods as well.
Right. Yep. Since 1979, we've been making soft goods. So shooting mats, rifle cases, carts. So actually, so that's not a soft good, but we make the bags for the carts. I've been using my high power cart for PRS, the Creedmoor range cart, and it has been working awesomely. So I strap my backpack up onto the handlebars of it. So I've got all my bags, my magazines, data books, all that stuff is in there. And then I'm able to put my tripod on it with my scope. So going from stage to stage, I just got my cart, everything's right there, and it has all my shooting gear in it anyway, because I've taken it to the range for high power, and then, take it to the PRS match. So that's just another thing that trying to get some more crossover between high power and PRS with stuff that already exists here. But our mats, that's been something that definitely is a cross discipline product. And everybody talks about, like, I'll go to a match during that initial zeroing, that first half hour, I'll lay my mat down, and I just, as soon as I'm done, I'm like, hey, if anyone wants to use my mat, and it's cool. Like when they get up, like, that's a nice mat. It's like, yeah, it better be, made in America, 1,000 denier Cordura. Yeah, not just saying this, I'd probably never use any other kind of mat once I started using the Creedmoor mats.
Sure.
And I've been a customer, honestly, since probably, since I was 9 years old. I've been using Creedmoor gear. So it's just kind of a funny storyline that now I'm
Yeah,
here.
right.
So,
Just kind of worked out.
right.
So what do you see in the future for Creedmoor Sports?
Definitely moving into that PRS direction. A lot more different styles of bags, things like that, different accessories for on the rifle, picking up more third-party brands, um, with Anschutz, getting more involved. Like I've been begging them for the last 5 years. I'm like, guys, like rimfire is your game, and rimfire PRS is picking up. So finally, I think I was one of the first ones they told. They're like, look, we've got the 1710 and the MDT ACC chassis. They're like, are you happy now? I was like, thank goodness. But I see a lot more coming out from them. So we're gonna have all of that stuff, as well as some centerfire rifles from PRS centerfire and shoots rifles. So us having just a lot of products that enhance things that already exist out there, as well as some more concrete products that we're going to create. Definitely still expanding, reloading. We are really deep in reloading supplies, tools, things like that. But always, if a customer calls and says, "Hey, do you have this?" If we don't, we're going to research it and make sure that the next time somebody calls, that we're going to be prepared for any kind of trend. Reloading's been something that's been, you feel like it hasn't changed much, over the years. But it is, especially with PRS, you got so many people now reloading that may not have reloaded, 15, 20 years ago. It's developing like monthly. There's all kinds of new stuff coming out. So we're just trying to stay ahead of that.
Yeah, even like brass prep and all that, right? Like weight
Right.
brass and lot sorting, and I mean just all the craziness that goes on. 20 years ago I was reloading. I mean, there was people that were doing it back then too, don't get me wrong, but I think it's a lot more people that are doing that kind of thing nowadays, right? Like when I first started reloading, I was like, yeah, get all your stuff, put it through the thing, make it all the same length, put your powder in, slap the bullet on it, you're digging, you're good.
Right.
Now I
The
think
precision is a lot more important now than it used to be. You
Yeah.
could go to your hardware store, buy a box of 308, and you're happy with that. This is the most expensive 308. It's got to be the best. Well, when you hand load, you can do quite a bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, annealing, right? Annealing brass even, and just all that stuff.
Right. Yeah. We were the first ones to carry the annealing made perfect machine, and it was kind of early to the annealing game. Guys were like, "Why would I need something that sophisticated to anneal my brass?" And now the amount of people I talk to,
socket right here.
yeah, it's like there's so many people that have that amp machine now, and it's now a staple on a lot of people's reloading benches. They wouldn't live without it.
Right. Yeah, and annealing, like I said, we used to use a wax crayon in a socket in a drill, right? In a torch.
Right.
And you'd figure out how long you had to have it in that flame, and you just you'd do a couple with that wax crayon on there, and then you just kind of do the rest of them, and just they were what they
Right.
were, and now it's down
Yes.
to the amp, right? You put your number in, and it's the same exact time, the same exact amperage, the same exact everything.
Yeah. Yeah, that Aztec software they came out with, because before you used to have to send it to New Zealand, they'd analyze it for you, send it back to you if they didn't have the preset code. But now you just do all that in your home. You get a different lot of brass. You want to check the whatever Aztec code you need, pop it in there, burn it, gives you the code. You just run it.
Yeah,
Pretty
I have
awesome.
so I don't have one, but I've sent my brass out every so often to have it done. And the
Mhm.
guy sent back the brass that he tested with the numbers written on it.
Right. Yeah, when we first launched them, that was what a lot of guys were doing. They were starting a business with it. They were advertising, "I'll anneal your brass for so many cents a
Yeah.
round," and they're using that to pay for the machine.
Yep. Exactly.
So, and clubs were renting them. You'd have a rifle range. They'd have it, and they'd weigh the brass or whatever, somehow calculate the usage of it. So, yeah, it's definitely been a game changer.
Yeah. That's crazy. It's just like I said, it's unreal how far everything's going. Yeah, I don't know. I think I think that everybody should go check out Creedmoor Sports. I think that you guys have carried a lot of stuff for a long time that's worth using in the PRS. And I think now, I think you're starting to see, I am anyway, starting to see you guys a little bit more around, a little bit more in the PRS stuff, which is good. What do you think I mean, what, so one thing that was interesting when we were talking yesterday too is you have a lot of experience with different disciplines, right? Where like for me, I've got only a couple of different, like I've shot USPSA, a little bit of three gun, a little bit of trap. I shot the FCSA thing, and then this is about it, right? Where there's a whole another world, like the CMP stuff or the high power, the silhouette, or all that stuff, right? Like there's these whole other worlds. It's just like, I don't know, it's not real to me. What do you see yourself continuing? Like, where do you see yourself going, I guess?
Okay. Yeah. So with the, growing up, it was air rifle and small bore. But the amount of time commitment to that is just impossible to be competitive in it. I'm a super competitive person, so if I were to participate in those, I would just be disappointed after every single match. But then I ended up shooting USPSA for fun a little bit, but that was cool because I started out at the bottom and I could see myself progressing through that. So seeing that progression, not necessarily being competitive against other people, but competition against myself was awesome, seeing that progression. And then going into high power, same thing, starting at the bottom. I've kind of peaked. There's that. It becomes where that time commitment is critical. To put in the training and everything. I don't have the time, but that's always going to be a sport that I'm going to continue to help the sport, create new products for it and everything. Whether it's, regular service rifle or the M1 Grand matches, it's a really good time. But with the PRS, I kind of have that same feeling that I had with USPSA is, starting at the bottom and then every single match I go to, hopefully I see myself getting better and better and better, having the series points being tracked and stuff like that. Like I'm a data guy. I'm watching that. I got my own spreadsheet that I'm, putting things into. So yeah, as long as that sport still exists, I think that's going to be where things are going. Kind of splitting half and half, shooting service rifle, rimfire PRS, and then next year, once I get the confidence with the rimfire, then I feel like I'm not just going to be wasting ammo with the center fire. Picking up a center fire and going with that. So it's a lot of sports, a lot of weekends burned up. But
I think that you should. I think you should compete with like a 30-06 in the PRS.
Right? Yeah, like an M1D.
Just to like stay true to your high power. Use like a 30-06. Doesn't even have to be semi-automatic, right? Just like you'd be the only one.
Nah, I think an M1 would be awesome. I don't know if they'd count that as it. I mean, it'd be a gas gun. I don't know if there ought to be a vintage class. You've got your gas gun class, your bolt guns. You need to have a vintage, like anything that's pre, like Gulf War or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. There was somebody's making a chassis for the K31 Swiss.
Okay.
So I wanted to buy a K31, throw a chassis big scope on it, and go out and compete with that.
Right.
Oh, that'd be cool. Who was I just talking to? Somebody shot a match with a K31, did really good. Some old guy showed up to some match, just like some little local match or whatever, and he had all kinds of weird old gear and a K31. I guess he did good.
Right. Yeah, I'd be limited with magazine capacity on a lot of my stuff, but just got to reload. Just part of the game.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, are you touching the microphone a whole bunch?
I'm not, but we have a very nasty storm here right now.
Oh, that must be the thunder that I can hear then.
Yeah. It was just raining a little bit earlier, but now it's the lightning. I'm pretty sure that was pretty close. So if I end up losing power,
Sure.
Hopefully I don't, but that's why.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's what that is. I couldn't tell, but now that you say it, I guess I can figure it out. But well, cool, man. Any last anything you want to get out there before we wrap her up? Any last words?
Um, yeah, if you guys haven't, checked us out, definitely check us out. It's, we've kind of been under the radar for a little bit, but you're going to see us a lot more in competitions as far as sponsorships, things like that. Doing everything I can to get the exposure out there and make a name for us within a whole bunch of different disciplines, including PRS.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing the products, right? Every company that's coming out with new stuff, right? It's great to see. It's great to see people supporting the sport. So, um, and that's kind of a good segue here into the people that support the sport. Real quick before we wrap this up, if you shoot a match and you see people, you see banners, you see um, prize table stuff, right? You see certificates, you see socks, scopes, whatever. Just shoot a couple emails out after every match to these people and thank them for helping you out, because that means a lot to them. There's a lot of people that don't they donate stuff and they don't really hear anything back afterwards, and it's huge for us, right? To have the support of these companies. So shoot them an email if you see a banner, if you see a stage named after whatever it is. It doesn't take nothing to write one email, generic, like, thank you email, saw your stuff at this match and I appreciate it, and shoot it out to 5-8 companies.
I read every single one that comes in. A lot of times, if it's funny, if it's good or something like that, just like super awesome. I'll print it out. We've got a board in the break room that has a lot of the thank yous in there. Sometimes people, they send us pictures. If they want it, they got it held up and everything. Big smiles.
Nice.
It's awesome for us to see that. So, and if you end up winning something that you didn't really need, give it to a new shooter or give it to a junior. And we get notes like that all the time telling us, hey, I didn't win this, but a guy gave it to me because he didn't need it, and thank you. It's super awesome. That's what makes it definitely worth it when you see a new shooter get something that they needed.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's you see that more and more too, right? Like the new shooters getting help. So with that, man, I appreciate your time. Where can everybody go to find you?
You can find us at creedmoorsports.com.
Cool. Questions, comments, concerns, go to creedmoorsports.com. I'm sure there's a contact us section that probably shoots you an email directly.
I do get a lot of them. Yeah, our customer service, they're super trained, super smart. They can help you out with anything. If you need to contact me, my email is brent@creedmoorsports.com, and be glad to reach out to you guys and talk.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. I really appreciate you taking some time to come on and talk. I think it was a good show. I think it was informative, and we should do it again.
I enjoyed it. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, man. So with that, everybody, we're going to wrap this one up. Appreciate y'all listening. You got any questions, comments, or concerns? Kirk@precisionriflemedia.com, or go to precisionriflemedia.com, click on the contact us section. That'll shoot me an email. Or if you want an actual reply quickly, it's going to be Elise, ELYSE @precisionriflemedia.com. If you want to, try and schedule a show up, you got questions, you want to get a hold of somebody we've had on in the past, whatever it is, get a hold of us and we'll do our best to help. So with that, everybody, I appreciate y'all. Take care. Try to get to the range, and I'll talk to you next week. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.